Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Chicago, my hometown. For those of you who are not from here, we decided to welcome you with the appropriate weather for the most part. I think you survived it, and we're going to get started with an incredible panel that I am proud to sit here and try to facilitate. And I think the introductions are coming next. Do we have a particular order, Sam, that we want to do that? The first, sometimes you save the best for last. 44th President of the United States of America, Mr. Barack Obama.
I don't need an introduction.
Needs no introduction, but we have one. The reigning MVP of the NBA, among other things, Giannis Antetokounmpo. A man who helped define the position now of power forward, Kevin Love. And just one of the great point guards in the history of the game, an Olympian, Chris Paul.
All right. It's good to see you, people. Welcome to Chicago for those of you who are non-natives. It is always sunny and warm in Chicago. This is unusual, isn't it?
The sun yesterday was unusual.
That's true. Good to see you, Michael. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me. And I know you're probably wondering, so what are we doing? And even as we have discussed this, the president and I, and we just talked backstage a little bit about what it is we hope to accomplish. And look, we're here for basketball. There's no question about that. The All-Star game is what we're here for. I don't know how it took us this long to get a second All-Star game, but it did. We're here for basketball, but that's not what we're here for. One of the things we're really going to talk about is the other career. And the other career, when these gentlemen are finished, and I know each one of them has a lot more basketball life in him, those careers are going to become more important if they're not already. And by just researching, and even though I have known Kevin and Chris for a long time, it was interesting just looking at, in detail, at the work that they do as we hope to just help the lives of people improve. And we're here in Chicago, as I've mentioned. I love my hometown. I know what it is and what it isn't. And it's probably a very appropriate place to have this discussion about how we invest our time, our emotion, our finances in the efforts. Because most of the people involved here this weekend are from some urban area, probably 80%. And what are we doing in those areas? And the president knew when he was talking to these three gentlemen about participating about their kind of investment, their level of investment and commitment. And so we're going to start there, actually. We're going to jump right in if we can. And I'm going to start with Chris. It was just interesting refreshing myself about your foundations, which I have known about. But, I mean, you do so much work. And all three of you have multiple communities. You have the communities you come from. You have the communities of your profession, of your professional basketball expertise. And we get to Yanis. He's got multiple countries in which that he's already invested. But Chris, take us a little bit through what you were doing, why you were doing it. And you have foundations that partner with so many other important causes, rooting in North Carolina. But bring us up to date a little bit about what you're doing and why.
Oh, man, first and foremost, I want to say thanks so much for having me. This is an honor and a privilege to be up here with these guys. And for me, I've had so many different stages of my career. We was just in the back talking about Yanis, who just had his first child, which, congratulations. I have all these different stages. Like, I can remember the NBA before kids, before marriage, even though I love my wife. I remember all these different stages.
They were bad memories.
All these different stages of my career. And when I first came into the NBA, one of my biggest passions, we were refurbishing basketball courts. We used to refurbish basketball courts all over different cities. And then once I had kids, one of the things that really became my passion was my son, who's not little, but little Chris was 5. And me and my wife was touring the school, and we were walking around the school, and we were looking at all these smart boards, and we were looking at these iPads and all this nice stuff at the school. And my wife asked me what was wrong with me, and I was getting mad. I was getting upset because I started to think about the fact that, yes, my son will have this opportunity, but the kids growing up on the other side of town, they won't. They won't, right? And so as a kid, you don't really have a say-so on how you're going to be educated. So our foundation, from that day forward, we started to try to level the playing field. So we started to go into the underserved communities and started refurbishing the Boys and Girls Clubs, or putting learning centers and learning labs and trying to make sure that they had all that advanced technology that the kids on this side of town was having.
We're going to skip around a little bit because each person has something that is clearly identifiable. And I probably have listened to Kevin talk about this, and I don't even know that I was all that comfortable asking about it in settings, but he has become so incredible at talking about something that men, particularly athletic men, strong men, accomplished men, don't talk about: mental health. And Kevin has, and it's been a couple of years now of just inspired and inspiring conversation. Kevin, before we just get into what you're doing, how did you have the courage? You know how difficult it is to talk about this. This is not something guys do. What pushed you to the point where you could talk about the investment in being healthy, mentally as well as physically?
Well, it wasn't always easy for me. I mean, I've suffered from really acute anxiety and as well as depression my entire life. Something that I wasn't comfortable ever talking about or ever exposing at really any capacity. I mean, some of my best friends, even family members, didn't know. So it was actually, the crazy part is, 2 years ago to this day, I was in LA and I was behind the curtain. You guys did media today at practice. Jackie McMullen takes me behind the curtain, very acclaimed writer for ESPN, and starts asking me all these questions about, where do you see mental health in the NBA and what's the landscape with young men as well. So it was actually 2 years to the day where I decided I was going to write my article in the Players Tribune and just express that not only myself, having a on-court panic attack in a moment that was life-changing for me, also dealing with depression, but knowing that everybody within an arm's distance, somebody you guys know, is dealing with something that you can't see. It's not like an ankle sprain. It's not, I hate pointing at you guys talking about injuries.
Don't look over here.
Yeah.
None of that.
Actually, Chris, about a week ago, we just saw each other. He got elbowed in the game by a rookie. He was talking all sorts of shit, excuse me. And
right.
It was, he showed me his lips, so it was a real thing. So Kevin Porter Jr., I'm going to have some words with him. But no, fast forward, I had my panic attack on November 5th against the Atlanta Hawks in 2017. And fast forward, I just felt that it was time to stop living in the shadows and living in a place where I was afraid really to be myself and play all of my cards. So I wrote the piece in the Players Tribune, and then the outcry and the outpouring of support and community as a whole, just experiencing it head on from my childhood all the way up till now, and seeing the vast numbers that came out to support. I think it was within the first 3 days there was 6,000 emails that we got, and 10,000 emails within the first week, and that continued even to this day. We started about 18 months ago the Kevin Love Fund, which was to inspire people to live their healthiest lives while providing tools for both the physical, because, kill the body, the mind will die, and emotional well-being, whereas now, it's really 4 separate pillars. It's erasing a stigma. I mean, people have to be willing to talk about it. It's both men and women combined, boys and girls. It's education. Knowing that we want to get it to, the top of the top, K through 12. We've already started it at the college level. So we have education, research. We want to make sure we have the tools and research. Those go hand in hand as well. We're working with UCLA. We're working with Stanford. Working with Harvard as well, the Cleveland Clinic. And I've been very fortunate actually to play in places like in LA, like Minnesota, where we have some of the best in healthcare at our disposal. So that's something moving forward that's going to be great for us. There was a chair endowment at UCLA, which is the first one in history, for their psych department, where we're going to just enable and inspire people to, just help the masses. And the idea is within the next 5 years to help 1 billion people and continue to pay it forward in a big way. Because I'll keep saying this thing doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care. If you're from North Carolina, it doesn't care, where you're from in Greece, doesn't care, south side of Chicago, suburban Portland, Oregon. I mean, it just doesn't discriminate, and it transcends any, socioeconomic status, race, gender profile, no matter what it is. This is super important, mental health. And just looking at the numbers, I felt that, we're sitting here with the MVP, we're sitting with a guy, actually, I went on Basketball Reference and looked up, everything that you've done in your career. And it was...
What did you find?
So I'm sitting here with 2 future Hall of Famers, right? But just your guys, I'll get to that in a second. Your guys' reach and your ability to impact people is incredible. I mean, so I felt that, in talking about mental health and seeing the numbers and seeing the reach that I could have, it was very important for me to, to speak about this and continue to pay it forward. So I think we need to have these tough conversations. I think it's very important to do that. And, as I'll get to talking about a little bit later, it's really a young people problem. So I know that we'll get to that later, but I want to give Chris some props on his 10-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, 6-time steal champ, 8-time assist champ,
Kev.
Rookie of the Year.
Do we need to make a trade? You need to travel with me.
I was like, I should have introed you. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, so.
By the way,
we'll get back to
it's I know Kevin can count as 3 Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers up.
Right. Right.
You certainly will be too, right? You guys know about this guy's award yesterday too, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yanis, you are in a position that is different than the 2 gentlemen to your right, and you've done so much already. And I know it's been under the radar, and it's time to be out on the radar, I hope, because what you've done in Milwaukee, which is almost a different city. I mean, I grew up 90 miles away. I went to Milwaukee for the first time in 5 years. Last year for the playoffs, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but also in Greece, and I know future considerations in Africa, and that is a lot of commitment for a young man. Tell us what motivates you, particularly as you deal with the immigrant community.
So first of all, thank you guys for having me. Just being on this stage with Chris Paul, Kevin Love, and ex-President Barack Obama. This is a tremendous honor. Never thought I'm going to be here in a million years. You just asked me what motivates me is my family. Growing up, I think my mom and dad did a great job just raising us and, making us have great principles and how to love each other, how to be generous, how to be kind and all that. So first of all, I'm just here to listen to you guys and, learn from you guys and know how to do this because obviously you guys, you're way older than me.
Whoa.
I didn't mean.
Hey, I tell you what, you should be apologizing to everybody in the
I
back because
apologize.
when his family stood up, nobody saw him to the front.
Nobody saw it.
So
I was like,
I
man.
didn't mean it that way.
That was funny. That was funny.
So obviously,
In African culture, that's an honor to be called older. It's not considered an insult.
So one thing that I've learned from these 2 guys is that you gotta use your platform. I think we're in a position that a lot of people did not, and we just gotta use our platform as best as we can. And one of the things that we did last summer, not just me and my family was involved, and a big part of it is that we partnered with Foundational Analysis, and we built court. And not only we built court, we had the academy that kids could go and get educated and at the same time play sports. Because when we were growing up, we had people that helped us. We had people that guided us. My parents and my dad used to work all the time to provide for us food, and it was hard for them. It was extremely hard for them. So we had people in the neighborhood, and imagine this: we were living in a white neighborhood, right? We were immigrants, immigrant parents they were illegal, basically. So we had to have our circle really tight and really close, and trust people that we knew they wouldn't, go behind our back and snitch on us or want anything bad happened to us. So we trust people so that they were able to, help us, lead us, and, put us in the position that we are today. I'm the MVP. My brothers play basketball also, and we're in a position that we can give back. So as much as I can right now, I really don't have a mission, but all I know is that people gave to me, I got to give back. Within Milwaukee, in the community, I try to help as much as possible, try to be involved as much as possible. I think one thing is that there's a lot of poverty going on in Milwaukee, so I try to be involved in the community and different programs that I can just basically help as much as I can. And I'm a guy that try to be as private as possible, and with my family and with myself. I don't like talking a lot about it. So as I said, I just try to help as much as possible.
Mr. President, you want to jump in here?
Well, look, part of the reason I wanted to convene these three, in addition to being amazing athletes, they're good people, and each of them are at different stages in their careers. You've got old Chris Paul down at the end, and then you got the young guy, and Kevin somewhere in the middle. But each of them, I think, have shown character on the court, but also off the court. And the work that I'm doing after the presidency is entirely focused on how do we lift up and identify and amplify and support the amazing next generation of leaders that are coming up. Because what I discovered when I was president was that most of the big problems we face, whether it is poverty, climate change, criminal justice system that too often is broken, whatever issue you care about, usually there's some good solutions out there to be had. But the problem is that those solutions don't get implemented because of lack of leadership. And so often we think of leadership just as government, politicians, people who are elected, people who are in prominent positions, but actually to really bring about positive change, you need leadership everywhere. You need leadership at the grassroots. You need leadership in the business community. You need everybody, all hands on deck, because usually change is just not a matter of passing laws, it's also a matter of changing culture and policy. So let's just take the example of mental health that Kevin gave. This is something that is underdiagnosed in every community, as he says. Part of the problem is that from a policy perspective, it's not, in the past, was not covered the same way a physical ailment was. So you couldn't get insurance for it, which meant you had to pay out of pocket, and so that's a policy fix that when I was president, I said we've got to create mental health parity so that mental health issues are thought about just like a broken leg when it comes to insurance coverage. That's a policy issue. But what Kevin's also identified is it's also a cultural issue. Because frankly, we as a society tell our boys, if you are good at sports and you're tough, that's all that matters. And you win, and that's how we're going to measure you. There was an amazing article a while back. This woman had interviewed all these young teenage boys, and it turned out that many of them had all kinds of stuff going on, but they could not talk about it because society said, no, you can't have a conversation. Whereas Michelle and my daughters, I watch them, all they do is talk. This is how I felt, and this happened, and I was feeling this, and so they were creating support networks, and boys couldn't do that. So that's a social thing, and my point is that leadership comes in many ways, and what I wanted to do was to lift up these three as examples of extraordinary leadership. They're just getting started. But there are also a bunch of young leaders who aren't playing basketball. They're not famous, they're not wealthy, but in their own communities are working with people who are doing reentry work, or folks who are helping immigrants have their legal rights properly represented, or women doctors who are setting up women's health clinics to deal with the particular health concerns that are so often neglected in certain communities. They're leaders too. And the goal of Michelle and I with the Obama Foundation is we want to shine a spotlight on the ways that people are giving back. We want those folks to know each other, to start expanding a network of leaders across fields and across disciplines. And what I've discovered is that there are amazing leaders everywhere, Michael, but they're separated right now. And we don't talk about what they're doing. And I appreciate the fact that Yanis is private, and I like that in him, by the way. You can tell he's just focused. He's not up. You don't see him, because Mama did a good job. So he's not running around. He's like, no, I'm hitting the gym, then I'm going home, which is great. But I do want you to be a little more public, Yanis, because you have something to give when it comes to giving back. And you can set an example for people. And that, I think, is the purpose of our conversation here today. And I'll talk a little bit more at the end about what the Foundation's doing more specifically. But I just want to say how proud I am of them. There's one last point I want to make that I think is common with these three outstanding individuals. Each of them talked out of their own personal experience. So Chris got mad about when he saw the resources in the schools that he can now afford to send his kid to, in part because he knows what it's like in some of these other schools. And Yanis is talking about giving back, in part because he remembers his mother working as hard as she could and still, having to, deal with a whole bunch of stuff that comes with being an immigrant. And Kevin, from his own experience, understood what it felt like when you felt something inside that you needed to deal with, but didn't feel like it was sanctioned to be able to talk about it. We all have experiences like that, and the more we're sharing our stories and communicating about what it is that motivates us to do what we do and to give back, and we're making common cause and listening to each other, that builds bridges at a time when the country is very divided, and that's also part of the goal, I think, of the Foundation, is to break through some of the polarization that we've been seeing and just the anger and the frustration and the suspicion and mistrust that you see building in our communities so much. Telling our stories like this and hearing from folks who have powerful stories to tell, that's part of the way that we start bridging these gaps.
Chris, one of the things I want to ask you about next, Chris, is you guys have a primary career that is demanding. Yet, you all have found the time to pursue. I can't use the word secondary, but because these are very important things. But your primary goal is dealing with a team in basketball and leading other players. In the case of each of you, and what I'm wondering, Chris, is how difficult is that? Because part of that using that platform is getting others to recognize what you're doing and act in their own specific ways. But how much time can you devote to it? How difficult is it? Do you feel pressure? How difficult is it?
It's funny. At the end of the day, we wouldn't be sitting up here in front of you if we didn't do what we do. Basketball is, the reason that gave us this platform. I mean, you can act like it isn't, but it is. So that's the thing that I respect the most about what Yanis was talking about, is that there's guys who get to the league and you start drifting off somewhere, if it's rapping, if it's this or that, but you got to realize that basketball is why even people want to hear your music. You know what I mean? This gives us the opportunity to have a voice. So you can't ever lose focus of that, but also understanding that basketball is like what I do, but it's not who I am. You know what I mean? So I think one of the biggest things, and like I said, this is my 15th year, so I've had an opportunity to pay attention to so much. And nothing against any of the networks or the media, or anything like that. But one thing that they always do is they put us against each other. If y'all look at it on your TVs, it always says such and such versus such and such. And so to tell you, to be honest with you, this is my first time really getting a chance to hear Yanis talk like this. Because when we play on the court, we both got the same mindset. You know, let's get to it. You know what I mean? Like before the game, we not chopping it up. After the game, we not. So I was looking forward to doing this to even hear. You know what I mean? Like some of the things that he may have going on, because a lot of times they put us against each other so much that we forget to do what you still my president, boss, so, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? President Obama said, like, we forget, you know what I mean, to like unite and do things together, because everything is always me versus him, instead of finding out what he has going on and saying, look, man, I would love to help donate to your cause. You know what I mean, to lend a note. And it's crazy. It's some guys in the league, and I'm not sure, but they got a thing called H2O, or the Water Boys. Y'all heard of them? Is some of your teammates with that?
Yeah, Malcolm does that.
Malcolm
Malcolm Brogdon,
Yes.
over at Indiana is doing some great work.
I see it on social media, and then I read about it, and I saw something that said that, like, I think $15,000 builds a water well or whatnot. Like, we don't talk about all that stuff. You know what I mean? So I think the more that, you know what I mean, I find out what Giannis' cause is, what he has going on, I would love to help. You know what I mean? If they find out. But a lot of times, it's so much of, you know what I mean, is me versus him. How we going to do against him? You know what I mean? Where we figure out here in the world, like he just said, we can be a more powerful impact if we do things together. Like, I'm mad at myself, Kev. You got a fund, right? I need to donate to Kev's fund. You know what I mean? Because he has a passion and things going on. So
You're going to now.
We sure are.
Well, Kevin,
But no, I'm serious. And this stuff is real. Like, the more, like, when we get on the court, of course, we gonna go at it. But I'm like two totally different people on the court and off the court. My mama knows if she on the court, we got to get to it. We got to get to it. But the more, like, these are real conversations, because a lot of times if you go up to another guy on another team and ask him what he got going on, like you said, it's a cultural thing. You look weak. You look weak. So it might not be during the game. When you're at the free throw line, I'm not going to ask you what you got going on, kid. But after the game, the more we communicate like this and talk, I think the more powerful we can be in so many different areas.
Kevin, have you been able to, has there been any collaborative initiative or effort that you've been able to plug into, or people should plug into you? Because clearly that would boost this effort, and I don't want to say make it easier, but certainly that challenge could be met if it was collaborative. Is anything like that? Because Chris just made me think of that point as well.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback off of what Chris said, I think us as athletes and what Yanis was saying and what Chris was saying as well is that, I got great advice my rookie year, and actually Kevin McHale gave it to me, another Hall of Famer. He said, chase the game, and everything that you want or love will chase you right back. And actually, Bron and Mav, they had the What's My Name, the Muhammad Ali documentary. He said boxing was just the way to introduce me to the crowd. I think, Giannis, you'll definitely find that. It wasn't until I got, 10 years into the league and I became super old that, I really was able to look back and realize I didn't have the presence of mind. I wasn't ready to be vulnerable. I think we, at least as Americans, celebrate people that beat their emotions into submission. Mr. President, I think that's, kind of what you were alluding to in a way. So as a young man, I was taught by a father who was born in, 49, had lived, through Vietnam. He was 20 years old at the time and, had played in the NBA with some of the greatest players of all time. He came from a father who was, a hard ass. He came from a father who, did the same thing. You just don't talk about it. So, for me, it was just, a way to be, extremely vulnerable and know that there was a bigger picture at hand. And that was, what I felt was, extremely important to do, was to pay it forward in that way. But, no, I think as far as you talk about initiatives, what we could do, I think it's just continuing to provide tools. Like I said, this thing doesn't discriminate. I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to, buy medication. I'm very blessed to be able to see a therapist and do cognitive behavioral therapy, which over time is actually shown to be better than medication. But not everybody has that. Not everybody, has that at their disposal. So, at my fund, we're really trying to, research and be science-based and find out what works and what's going to be able to work for everyone, what's going to be accessible. And I think that's what we're dealing with now in the second year of the fund is really doing that. And, just an example is we're using Headspace, and they've completely changed their, format and their platform from just being a meditation app to now being a mental health space and a place where people can go and, really, work on the mental side of things, because it's just something that, really remains unseen, and it's crazy that it's really a young people problem here. I'm gonna, throw some numbers at you. Is that 1 in 7 kids in the U.S. Deal with a mental health issue, and half of those go untreated. 1 in 14 have an anxiety disorder, and that's people in general. 300 million suffer from depression worldwide. But really where it hit me and I realized that, something was, really wrong was, where I'm from and where I've played. So, in Ohio, and I grew up in Portland, Oregon. The second leading cause of death in Oregon in ages 10 to 34 is suicide. There's a 10-year study in Ohio as well where it talked about, suicide rates continue to trend in the wrong direction. In the last 10 years, it's up 24%. And this is the crazy part. In ages 60 and above, and get this, 14 and below, it's up 80%. So that's where you find, things like, schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety disorder, depression, and so on and so forth. 50% of these are, diagnosed, so you're starting to see symptoms at the age of 14. By 24, it's 75%. So these are really young people problems where, we need early intervention. We need to have these conversations with our kids, and I think it's tough to do whether you're a boy or a girl, no matter what you identify as, and those are tough conversations to have, and I've been there. And I do think at those ages, kids are so much more susceptible to change. So you could really directly impact their North Star, their trajectory of their life by just having these conversations and helping them. So we have to find a way at the fund to, be able to have that intervention, because the brain is changing at such a rapid pace when you're that young, but you're not going to notice it. So the behavioral changes are going to come so far after the fact, and you're going to say, where did that come from? So you need to check in. You need to find ways to, intervene with your kids and have these conversations and find different tools. And I think that's a big part of, what we're doing at my fund as well and raising money for.
Let's just follow up real quickly. You didn't just, Kevin, you didn't change the conversation. You in large part, particularly in the larger culture, started it. Are you finding the stigma lessened?
I mean, I really feel like it's going to go, and it really is going in the right direction, and it's having these tough conversations. I mean, I talk about young people in the next generation. Like there's, actually Parkland, Florida was really part of my story. On the Wednesday, or I guess it would have been Thursday, getting to Los Angeles in 2018, I turned on the TV. I was actually sitting in the room with Courtney and Candace. What's up, girls? And Parkland, Florida was on the TV, and I'm thinking, not only, what the kids and the parents and the people at the school, but nationwide, even the guy that shot all the kids, what he was going through mentally, and how big of a uproar that caused, and gun violence in general. But there was the big uprise by all those kids. It was really incredible. And then in Portland, in Oregon, they went to the Capitol, and they actually got mental health days. There was 5 kids that got mental health days, 3 to 4 mental health days per semester for kids to use. So you're seeing a youth uprise. I think it's 60% now, whereas in the past, that wasn't even close to the number of going to a therapist or talking to somebody as a sign of strength. And it wasn't like that in the past. I mean, it's, you come home from, war or the Vietnam, or you have PTSD, you don't talk about it. That's something you do not do. So, like I said, it transcends. It's something that is very near and dear to me because I've experienced it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it in my family, and now it's the craziest thing. And like you said, Chris, it's so much bigger than basketball. It's so crazy to see kids like come to the game. And I never thought I'd be sitting here because I didn't think I'd be strong enough to tell my story. Is literally you have kids come to the game with like signs like, everybody's hashtag, everybody's going through something, thank you, Kevin. And it like blows my mind. And girls will come and I had a girl come and sit courtside. Her father just reached out to me and sent me a tweet. And just as little things like that help pay it forward, put her in my seats. And she suffered from panic attacks. And then, a year later, her father messaged me and said, hey, she's got straight A's in school. And now she's, her panic attacks have really gone away and she's doing great. So I think it's just, initially it was, hey, let's just affect that one kid or try to affect that one kid, but it's really taken on a life of its own because I didn't know that there was such a community out there and going to be such an outpouring of people that were going to show support. And I'll say this last thing just about, mental health and with people, I guess, that are either celebrity status or people that would be sitting up here is that, a guy that I use this all the time. This guy that I really, really love, Anthony Bourdain. You guys all know him. I watch the show, Parts Unknown. Felt like I traveled the world with him. Had the best job in the world. He took his life, Game 4 of the 2018 finals, and that was like a hero to me because I wanted his job, and I really loved him. And it just goes to show you that nobody's immune. Like success is not immune to depression either. Like you're allowed to feel these things. You're allowed to share these things with loved ones. It doesn't even have to be a therapist. It could be the person sitting right next to you, in front of you, behind you. Like, nothing haunts us like the things we don't say. So I'd really, make sure that you're having these tough conversations. Sorry, I get really long-winded.
You needed to hear that, Kevin. Yanis, I want to go back to something you said that struck me, and I'm sure others, about the contacts that you had in your neighborhood that inspired you. Can you tell us a little bit more? And I know I read somewhere where one of them, a coffee shop that you went to and a relationship that you developed there. Can you tell us a little bit about the people and the situations that inspired you to this point?
So, growing up, first of all, I want to talk about a little bit about what Cave said, that, that you was at a point in your career that you were really scared to open up. And, when I told earlier that, I'm trying to be private with whatever I do, I think I was kind of, at that point, like I was scared to, open up to the public about what I do because, my whole life, I saw my parents, hiding, basically. They were immigrants, they were illegal, so that stuck with me my whole life. So, I was scared to be out there. I was scared to share other people's opinions about what I do. Is it enough? Am I doing a good job? Oh, he's the MVP, he should be doing more, he should be doing less. So I always never talked about it, never tried to put my name out there. And Chris Paul is 100% right. Basketball is what I do, is not who I am. And once I started this year, getting a little bit more involved with the community, I went out there and talked with people. People share the stories with me, and I'm the MVP. I'm Yanis. I'm the biggest thing in Milwaukee that happened in the past few years. So
Talk your talk.
So they expect me to have the answers, but at the end of the day, I'm 25 years old. I really don't have the answers. I'm there to help you. I'm to do whatever it takes. Whatever I'm capable to help the community, help your family in any way I can. But at the end of the day, I really don't have the answers. And the question you asked me about the people that helped us growing up. Thank God we had people, because it was definitely tough. We had people that my parents put us around, that's their trust, and they were able to provide us with a meal. When I was, I think, 17, I went to the guy, in the restaurant, and I told him, I said, can I work? can I work? Can I, help my parents? Can I provide for my brother? He said, no, like, that's not what you're going to do. I'm going to make sure that your brothers go to school, get their education, be safe, and give them, a meal every morning. So we had people around our community that did that for us. And, that's what I'm trying to do in Milwaukee. That's what I'm trying to do in Greece, Sepolia, my hometown. That's what I'm trying to do in the county that my parents were raised, Nigeria, Lagos, Ondo State, and Delta State, right, Mom? So, yeah, that's it.
Can I say one thing real quick before you go? Is, like I said, me and Yanis have never really, like, talk or whatnot, but, like, being a fan of the game, right? This is what I tell you. Like, if somebody asks me, like, what's Giannis like? I'd be like, I don't know. I play against him, man. He come through Euro stepping, dunking on everybody, right? Right? That's what I always say. But aside from that, and he would never know this, I think the coolest thing that I always see about him, because I pay attention to stuff, is that even when you were just talking, to see the way your three brothers was just sitting here, like, listening to you, like, everything you do, man, like, I see you the happiest when you got your family around. So whether people say you private, whatever, like, I see the genuineness in you. Like, when you won MVP, who was with you? Them. You know what I mean? Like, I can see that in you, man, and that's dope. Like, I always got my family around. We roll deep. But that's one of the biggest things I respect about you, man, is that you at your brother's games. You always with them, and that right now is how you paying it forward, because they see what you doing. And so guess what? When they get the chance, they're going to be doing the same thing. So respect, man.
Great point. Great point. Let me just pick up on a couple of things that folks were just talking about. First of all, at 25, you should be focused on your job, whatever that job is. And you shouldn't have all the answers. And it would be unreasonable to expect people to have the answers, right? You are becoming excellent. You are excellent and becoming more excellent. And Mark Lazary is very happy about how you continue to get more excellent every day. And Chris, who's at a different stage, as Kevin outlined, he'd been excellent for a very long time, as has Kevin. But all of us have core things we have to do. And our first obligation, obviously, is to do our jobs well, and then to the people who depend on us and are closest to us. Now that you're a father, you will find that nothing's more important than that investment. But what it also turns out is that even after you've set the example of doing your job well and loving your family and looking after your children, we've all been put in a position where, in some small, modest way, just like that guy who owned the cafe, there's something we can do that's going to make a difference in somebody's life. Right? He wasn't necessarily thinking this is the next NBA MVP, but what he saw was, this is a good family that's having a tough time. I like them, and I want to make sure that they have a shot. In a small way, I'm making a contribution. And I think that's the key message I'm hoping that we all take away from these conversations. Whether you are a superstar or you are somebody who nobody knows, in some small way, you can make a contribution. And part of what's happened, Kevin, you spoke movingly about the statistics of mental health and anxiety and depression and a whole host of things. There is a social element to this as well. It's not just science. If you look right now at the opioid crisis, for example, where a lot of these suicides are occurring partly by virtue of firearms. We talk about the inner city and all the firearm deaths in the inner city. You look at statistically the firearm deaths due to suicide, they're growing out of a similar thing, which is when people start not having jobs and they start losing hope. And the bonds of institutions fray so that people feel isolated and alone. Then those anxieties and issues of depression, et cetera, that we all have, you're less likely to get help because people aren't talking to you as much, or there aren't as many resources, or people are more mistrustful. The fabric of society start breaking down, and each of our problems get magnified because we're social animals and we help each other. And part of leadership that I've been seeing around the world, communities that are healthy, schools that work, businesses that thrive, they are able to create a community and build a sense that we're in this together and we've got connections, and that we're investing in each other and helping each other and teaching each other. And that is something that no matter how busy we are, how much work we're doing, we can do in some small ways, and then over time, once you become an old man like me, you can do it a lot. And you guys are way ahead of the game in what you're already doing. But I want to emphasize, I think, that you shouldn't feel like you've got to solve the world's problems. Just you setting a good example, and for example, you visiting a prison in which you had a conversation with inmates who at some point are going to need to be released, and them hearing from you that, just like they've heard from me, because I was the first U.S. president to visit a prison, and sit down with a bunch of young men and say, you know what, I was just like you. I was just lucky. And one turn here or there, I could have been in your seat instead of mine. And them hearing that from you is powerful. And them seeing that you care enough about them to talk to them directly, that's mind-changing. And so you'll grow into, your influence will expand as your careers expand. And then, you know, we've all been remembering Kobe. The last conversation I had with him was with him and Vanessa in LA. I asked him, do you miss basketball? He said, I don't miss it at all. I don't touch basketball. He said, because I am now just as competitive and focused on this second phase. And we were talking about how we could work together in the foundation to mentor and lift up young men of color who are at risk. And part of what you're doing is laying the foundation for your second act and the incredible leadership and work that I think you're going to be able to show in the future. So you should know that you're well ahead of the game already. You're ahead of most 25-year-olds in terms of how they're thinking about it. That I promise you.
Giannis, it was so refreshing to hear you say, I don't have all the answers. Because whether it's 25 or 45 or 65, nobody has all the answers, but that candor is such a great place to start, it seems to me, and such a realistic place to start. Mr. President, I wanted to ask you how your foundation work maybe has changed, as the target changed, moved, has your mission changed at all in, say, the last 6 to 8 years?
Well, look, I love basketball, but I wasn't this gifted. So I had to make a decision early on, all right, what's my work? All right, well, what's the thing that I'm going to, what's the craft I'm going to hone? And I moved to Chicago because what I decided was that I cared deeply about creating a more just society and giving every child opportunity. I was effectively raised by a single mother. I had, during my teenage years, a lot of confusion and lack of guidance. I had been lucky to have a bunch of people who had helped guide me through that process. And I had been inspired by the civil rights movement and the vision of young people mobilizing to bring about change, just with the moral force, just with being willing to walk across a bridge even though they knew they were going to be beat, just by their willingness to speak truth to power about social justice and civil rights. So that's what it inspired me. And it turned out that I was pretty good at it, right? So I kept on going, and we made progress, and we made change. But what I realized when I left is that, left the presidency, I was meeting young people who were just like me when I was 20 or 25, who didn't have all the answers, didn't have a lot of contacts or connections, but had just as much energy, just as much talent. And by the way, I was meeting them all around the world because we started doing these young leaders programs where every country I visited, if I went to Greece or I went to South Africa or I went to Turkey or I went to wherever I went, we'd have these convenings of young leaders who were doing great work. And you'd hear some young doctor who'd started a health clinic, or you'd talk to some young man in a country where it's hard to speak out because there's not democracy there, but he's speaking out on behalf of democracy, and in some cases worried about being jailed. And you'd meet some activist who's dealing with environmental issues in countries where the business interests are really powerful. And I thought, man, if we could put them in charge, even though they don't have all the answers, I promise you their answers are a lot better than the people who are currently in charge. And it made me think that my job is to use the platform, the leverage, whatever authority I have and connections I have, to essentially accelerate their rise, to empower them, and to connect them. Because I want to go back to something that Chris said. Yes, all the NBA players should be focused on their jobs, and that is being excellent at their game. But the collective power of athletes in this society, I never try to talk about other people's money, but the contracts y'all got, I think it's fair it's coming, people. But see, I'm not trying to stir anything up. But the point I'm making is that when you look at what that represents collectively, it is extraordinarily powerful. You then think about the resources, the attention, the just amount of cultural space that's taken up. That's an incredible amount of power. And the question is, and this is essentially goes to the point about what the foundation's trying to do. What's true for celebrity athletes is also true for, there are thousands of climate change activists around the world who each one is doing great work. If we can connect them together, that's power. There are people across this country who are working on criminal justice. You meet them in every city. There's somebody who's working on a reentry program or working on a diversion program or making sure that somebody who's got a criminal record but has turned their lives around can try to get a job. And the issue is, how do we connect them so that they have more power and they're not as isolated? And so the job, to answer your question, all this made Michelle and I conclude, our job is to just find that talent and empower it. And if we can harness the energy of this next generation of people, some of whom are working full-time on nonprofit issues and their causes, some of whom they've got jobs like these three, but are making contributions like Kevin in terms of publicizing and facilitating. If we start doing that in a more systematic way, not kind of a catch as catch can, hey, I saw you at the All-Star game, oh, Kevin, I hear you're doing this, oh, that's cool, I'll write you a check, which is nice, but rather, you start getting clearinghouses of, here's all the things that everybody's doing. Are we doing similar things? If Yanis is just coming up, and he says to him, I'm now ready to start doing something serious back in Milwaukee about criminal justice reform, or for that matter, I want to do something in Greece or in Nigeria to help young people here, wouldn't it be great if he was able to talk immediately to somebody who'd already done it? Or he's able to find out from Kevin, oh, here's the expert on mental health if I'm starting to see mental health issues, right? So the idea of the foundation is now we're building a presidential center here in Chicago that is going to serve this specific community. We are essentially bringing what will end up being a multi-$100 million project, a major institution on the south side of Chicago. Usually these things are downtown somewhere. Our attitude is this becomes an anchor for empowerment and development and job opportunities, but the center is primarily going to be a training ground for all these young leaders in Chicago, but then it becomes the hub around which we are connecting with activists and institutions around the world, identifying these young leaders and empowering them and giving them a platform and making connections so they can learn from each other and work together. Because I can tell you right now that there are 200 young leaders in Africa that we had a summit in South Africa from 50 countries. Probably 10 of them were from Nigeria. Some of these are young members of parliament, some of them are health experts, some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them are journalists, human rights lawyers. Whatever it is that you want to do, Yanis, in Nigeria, there are 10 outstanding leaders, just a little bit older than you, who've already started. So you may not have to, reinvent the wheel. You may just need to connect with them. They would love to have you just, even if you just did a PSA, a public service announcement for them, that suddenly blows them up. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it's a huge contribution that you're making to them. Chris, if you're working on education stuff, there are amazing activists, including my former Secretary of Education. I'm going to give him a shout out, Arnie Duncan, who was in the celebrity game, he's always had game. Arnie is working here in the city with young people who've been involved in violent crimes, but who are now turning their lives around, and he's paying them initially to train them and then placing them in jobs and creating a wraparound set of programs to ensure that they succeed. So if Chris decides, man, I saw something in Carolina, my old community, I really want to do something with these young people who have come out of prison. Well, he doesn't have to suddenly start all over again. He can call up Arnie right away. You've got a template for how you might make that work. So the goal of the foundation is to be that hub, that clearinghouse around which we can all support each other. It means everybody's lift is a little bit less, right? Everybody's got a way to contribute to that. And our legacy, hopefully, Michelle, I've said it, and maybe this sounds a little egotistical, but it's in response to a lot of people saying, man, we need you back, and when's Michelle running, and this and that and the other. And what we've said is, you know what, our goal is, there's 1 million Baracks and Michelles out there, of every race and creed and background in every country. There's tens of millions of them. They just weren't as lucky as us. And the question is, if we identify them and give them a platform and a voice and train them, that's what's going to save the world. Don't look backwards at who was there. Look forward at who's coming. And our goal and job as a foundation is to make sure that we're doing everything we can to create the ecosystem where they can thrive and succeed.
As somebody who was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, I'm still glad we can look forward and see the original Michelle and Barack, and what's being built on the South Side, which, again, born and raised, and I even though I read about it, I follow every word I can every day. It's almost unbelievable.
Look, this will be not just a traditional museum mausoleum, although people, they estimate that we'll get 700,000, 1 million visitors a year because they won't want to see Michelle's dresses, and maybe a few of my remarks. But it'll be state of the art, and so it becomes a world-class exhibit space that tracks the history of social change through my presidency and highlights all the issues that people care deeply about, but most importantly, triggers them to activism. But it's also transformative because you grew up here, you understand. The north side of Chicago does not look like the south side of Chicago. Chicago has never looked more beautiful, and I love this city. But last night, 6 teens were shot about half a mile from where we're building this institution. And historically, a message has been sent. Look, this is well documented. It used to be parks in the South Side, they were famously underfunded. Their field houses wouldn't, if you wanted to go play basketball and you were on the South Side, you did not have the same facilities or resources. And I'm not talking about way back in the 1920s. I'm talking about when Michael was growing up. And so the idea of bringing a world-class institution that is attracting international attention, where we're going to have an athletic center, and by the way, Nike's already helping out in the construction of that, an outstanding, world-class athletic facility that is available for all the young people in this area, but also a theater space so that we can use the arts for young people to learn how to show leadership and express themselves. We're going to have a recording studio, so if I call my friend, Lamar or Jay-Z or somebody to say, hey, do a workshop with these guys in terms of how do they channel and tell their stories, that they don't have to go downtown to do that. There's a facility right in their neighborhood where they can start doing it. And our ability then to convene an international conference or a national conference on the south side of Chicago, not just downtown, on issues of import, which then in turn gives businesses in those areas an opportunity to thrive, homegrown, and young people are being hired from those communities. What this does is it becomes both a model and an engine for change that then can be duplicated as other cities look at how they can bridge those gaps and give people opportunity everywhere. So, plus it's just going to look cool.
It's a very exciting time that none
fun.
of us could anticipate, before 2008. It was unforeseeable. Even for people who are optimists, and I'm going to dare say visionary. Where was it going to come from? What was the source going to be? And now we know the answer to that. And so thank you can't be said enough for those of us who.
Well, I appreciate it. Look, one thing. Maybe this isn't true of these guys. I'd be interested in hearing from them how they feel about it. But the odds of me being here as the former president of the United States are incalculably small. I mean, if you thought about a mixed kid being born in Hawaii to a father from Kenya who left him and his mom when they were 2, and named Barack Hussein Obama. I mean, there's no chance. But for all of us, right, there is this sense sometimes. I mean, I think part of why, when Yanis, I was really relating to Yanis talking about, like, sometimes it must feel like a dream to you, right? There's this sense of, like, wow, I still don't know how I got here. And all this is happened given where I'm coming from. And it'd be interesting to reflect and to hear these guys. Part of what we have to do is to remind ourselves we've just been lucky. Doesn't mean we haven't worked hard. Doesn't mean we haven't, done what we're supposed to do. But there is just an element here of randomness to what happened to us. And that should create humility, which I see in all these guys. Not on the court, but at least off it. And that's part of what makes you want to give back. Because when I see kids on the corner, I'm all like, well, yeah, I'm not better than them. They might be just as talented as I was. But they just had a different set of circumstances that led it this way instead of that way. And I don't know if that's something that resonates with you guys, but I hope that's part of what inspires you to, in whatever ways you choose to do, to give something back.
For me, usually, I've used a lot of times the quote that I'm supposed to be here. A lot of people get mad telling me.
Me neither.
Exactly. So a lot of people get mad, like, what do you mean you're not supposed to be here? Like, you're talented, you did this, you did that. I'm like, okay, listen. Like, I grew up in a white country, I grew up in Greece, parents both illegal, struggling, and, came from Greece to the United States, went first time to Milwaukee. I never heard about Milwaukee before.
Did they tell you about the weather before you came?
Oh, they lied to me. They told me it was warm weather, so
3 months, Giannis, 3 months. That's all we got out here.
3 months. So I really believe like everything happens for a reason in life. God puts you where He wants to put you. Never makes no mistakes. But at the end of the day, right now, I'm just trying to take advantage of the opportunity. So I think that's what makes me be driven every day and that's what keeps me humble also, because there's a lot of guys, a lot of people that get to a stage that they know that they're supposed to be there. That's what they always dreamed about, and a lot of people, help them to be there. But a lot of people helped me also. But what keeps me humble, what keeps me driven every day is that, I came from there. I'm here right now. There's a lot of kids that they were in the same position with me, and I went to a game. I went to a Thanasis game a few weeks ago. So I saw a kid like mopping the floor, right, after every timeout. And after the game, I was talking to my brother. I told my brother, I'm like, that was me right there. And then the kid came out, and I went and talked to the kid. I'm like, yeah, I used to mop the floor. He looked at me, no way. No, I used to do it. And, I'm here now. So if I did it, you can do it. And I really believe in that, you just got to help people and put people in the right direction, because, like, people helped me, my parents helped me, my brothers helped me, went towards this direction, which, with luck and everything, put me in this position. And some other kids go the different direction. They're not less talented, they just didn't have the luck that I had, and they didn't have the support that I had from people from the community and all that. That's my.
I know we got to wrap up, but Chris and Kevin and Chris, can you give us some closing remarks, just thoughts on what we're hearing and things that are on your mind as we leave?
No, I think, Chris hit it when we first started. Just really an honor to be here. Mike, obviously, congratulations for yesterday. You've always given us players, in a world where, it transcends the basketball court too, but where the commentary is now the content, and there's 24-hour news cycles, and you have to create different storylines and pull stuff out of thin air that isn't true. You've always given us all a very fair shake. And you've just been great. That's why the Hoop Hall, I think, gave you the nod. So I appreciate that. Yanis, I hate that you have to guard me. You just had a son. Congratulations. I will now have a son about 10 years after the fact, so he's on his decline when he's coming into the league. So, no, but I think, no, you are, I mean, listen, I'm, 6 years your senior, maybe 6.5, but I think you're an inspiration for the entire league. The game has become so global now, where you see, Giannis is MVP from Greece. You have Luka is, from Slovenia, and he's the Rookie of the Year. You have Pascal Siakam. He's from the Cameroon. He's the most improved player. Like that. That speaks volumes about where we're at as a game. And Mr. President, you spoke to it. Just the ability and the reach that we have. We can scale up our youth programs, and our reach is so vast and so huge that if we do a PSA, it reaches the, not only the tens of millions of kids. It's this game tomorrow, while we're here, is going to be broadcast in how many countries? Maybe we can. A lot, right? So hundreds of millions of people are going to be. I put you on the spot there. I'm sorry. I didn't. You're good. You're not that good. So many people are going to just be inspired by you. So I didn't figure out. I feel like I found my life's work, and I'm gonna continue to pay it forward. But that wasn't the case until I was 28 or 29, and you're 25. I didn't know shit at 25. Let me tell you. Excuse me. We won an Olympic gold medal when we were.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did 08 too.
But Chris too. Yeah, you did. There's still Tokyo. So. No, but Chris is, I think we all have, each and every one of us up here all have different leadership qualities. But Chris is one of the greatest floor generals. And it's funny, this actually goes back to why I was, we all have our, you have your barbershop argument, you have your locker room argument, you have your, on the plane playing cards, the argument. So, I'm arguing for CP because, he's one of the best floor generals of all time. Like, as far as being a leader, he's, on and off the court, you could say that, one of the best that the game has ever seen. So I tip my hat to you. And, I like to now, especially just being more comfortable in my own skin than I've ever been, just giving people, telling them that I admire them. So I admire, both of you guys quite a bit, even though you're my, my peers on the court. We play against each other. We've played with each other, won a gold medal together. But, no, just a inspiration. And you talk about 44 over here. I was actually the last basketball player to hand him the jersey in 2016. So I was so damn nervous to make the speech too. I probably fumbled over every damn word, but I was, the photo op was. But no, I think I know when people look at you, they see hope. And I think as far as in relation to what I'm talking about, mental health, specifically anxiety disorders, and depression is really, a crisis of hope. And it's the feeling of really a meaningless future. And I think you, speaking of inspiration, everybody in the world looks at you as a true inspiration. And you mentioned, where you've come from, and your background, your history. And I think nothing unites us like the common enemy. And I feel really strongly that, we all want to be on the winning side of history. And you've played a major part of it in all of our lives. So, no, I thank you for, I was on my way to St. Bart's. And so, Mr. President's team called and said, "Hey, will you come and do this?" I said, "Yeah, cancel all my plans. I'm gonna go ahead and make it to Chicago." So I appreciate you. I really do. Having all of us, but specifically myself, because selfishly, this whole process has been very therapeutic to me. But just like I said, continuing to talk about it and pay it forward. It's stuff like this and having this platform, and because of this game and because of you, that this will make a big difference today. So thank you.
I'll make it quick. 15 years in, you just don't get used to stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is not supposed to be our normal, Yanis. You know what I mean? Like, I'm vertically challenged. You know what I mean? I'm 6 foot, 6'1" on a good day.
Really?
Be cool. Listen. Let me just tell y'all
By
this
the way,
real
don't-
quick
don't
before
talk to
y'all
me
tell.
about
Let me
vertically
just,
challenged
let me
over
just say this before y'all, because he wants to say it so bad I can see it. For his birthday, we had a pickup game, and he crossed over, and I sort of let him cross me. No, listen. And you never hear the end of it. You was there too, I know, Mark, whatever. But it happened, all right? But just this and this opportunity to be here with you guys, I mean, it's an honor and a privilege. Never thought, '08, you was having a rally in Indiana. I don't even know if you remember. My whole team went. 2008, he was having a rally, and we went. He actually took a little shot at us while we was standing there talking about how much we get paid. But we all was there, and who would have thought 2020 that we had a relationship that we have? I still, it's just something that you never get used to, because I know he's the president, but he is the most down-to-earth person, junk-talking person y'all ever meet in your life. You know what I mean? But that's real. Mike, who I've known since I was in college, been unbelievable. Giannis, I'm a fan. Not during the game, but I'm a fan of the NBA, and I'm a fan. I watch all the time. K-Love, man, we connected through so many different people. We've had a chance to win a gold medal of the game, but these are experiences. Like when you talk about life, you know what I mean? You probably won't remember like the last watch or whatever that you bought, but you'll remember the experiences that you have. And when you talk about paying it forward, man, you reminded me how old I am up here. But the coolest thing that when you talk about looking at somebody and seeing yourself, my dad spent his whole 401k on me and my brother playing travel basketball, right? So one of the first things we did with my family when I got to the NBA is we started an AAU program, a youth program, right? My mama books all the flights, hotels, and everything. My brother oversees all the coaches. My dad does it. I got 12 kids that play in the NBA now that started in my AAU program. You know what I mean? So, my accomplishments mean nothing. So when I was at the rookie game last night and I got a chance to see Josh Okogie, when I got a chance to see Colin Sexton, Wendell Carter, and all these guys who then came up through our AAU program, Harry Giles, since he was like 12, playing on our AAU team, and now Harry got to battle with you. That's not my problem. That's not my problem. But once again, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
I know there's a Saturday night session or two, three-point shooting, dunk contest that we all look forward to. So the All-Star game was here in, what, 88? So this is my 32nd All-Star game. You talk about age, Chris, please.
I was 3.
Thanks for reminding me. Thank you. I hope everybody keeps in mind the president's initial comments about listening to the stories and listening to what people are doing and that being uplifting. And hopefully these stories will go from here. I know there's some social media, the way that we disseminate now most effectively these stories and experiences and anecdotes. And I am certain that people will find out. We'll be hearing about it later tonight, about what Yanis said or what Chris said or what Kevin said or what you, Mr. President, said. And I want to leave the last word to you. Thank you for asking me to do this. I'm thrilled to be here. And I hope there's something else like this down the line that we can be involved in again.
Well, I want to thank these outstanding gentlemen who are on the stage. I want to thank those who attended. Those who are interested in finding out more about how they can get involved, you can go to the Obama Foundation website, correct? I would hope so. And I just want to remind everybody's got a contribution to make. Everybody's got a gift that they can give. And it may be small, it may be large, it may change over time. But if all of us are making that effort, then there's reason for hope and not hopelessness. And just listen to these gentlemen. I'm assuming it gives you hope just like it did me. All right? Thank you, everybody. God bless you.